You found the Backup Wrap Up, your go to podcast for all things backup, recovery, and cyber recovery. In this episode, we're talking about deep fake attacks. Trust me, it's way scarier than you think. Prasanna and I break down how attackers are using AI to clone voices and create fake videos of CEOs and CFOs. They only need 30 seconds, by the way, of a voice to impersonate someone. We cover the different types of attacks from wire fraud to credential theft, and also give you practical steps that you can take right now to defend against this. We talk about also how to set up procedures that won't get overridden when someone says they're having an emergency. Nearly half of all businesses have already been hit by deepfake phone calls. Listen in before you become the next victim. By the way, if you don't know who I am, I'm W. Curtis Preston, aka Mr. Backup, and I've been passionate about backup and recovery ever since I had to tell my boss that we had no backups of the production database that we had just lost. I don't want that to happen to you, and that's why I do this. On this podcast, we turn unappreciated admins into cyber recovery heroes. This is the Backup Wrap Up. Welcome to the show. Hi, I'm W. Curtis Preston, aka Mr. Backup, and I have a guy with me who continues to allow me to change the design of a project that I have going on, and so it's all his fault. Prasanna, Molly Andy, how's it going, Prasanna?
I'm good, but I just to make sure everyone is clear, I had initially suggested this design to you, and you poo-pooed on the idea, and now you're walking back after you've done additional investigation.
Yeah, well,
So it's not like your first design was solid.
Yeah.
Because there's sort of the difference between like a design and what is practical.
Yeah, and what doesn't cost $1 million.
$1 billion.
And I don't want to go into detail right now because it may just be insanity, and I may, this idea, and
we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes, and but yeah, I haven't pulled the trigger on the design, and I keep changing the gun.
But at least it's not like you're swapping out a car for a boat or an airplane, right? It's just you're like, oh, do I want a car versus do I want 4-door sedan or a coupe? Yeah. Right? That's sort of the thing. You're at least kind of refining it down.
Or do I want a pickup? Or do I want
I don't know if it's quite at the pickup level. I think you're beyond the like, is it an SUV? Is it a car? Is it
okay. Yeah.
Right. You're beyond that. I think you're now just sort of.
Do I want 19-inch wheels? Do I want plastic wheels? Do I want run flats? Yeah. Nice analogy. I like that.
See, it's not as bad as you think.
It's just that every time I think I've got it sorted out, I come up with a problem with my current design.
Yes. And so all you have to do is just stop talking to me. Honestly, if you just stop talking to me, I bet you can like quickly narrow down your design. Yeah. And you should talk to me after it's done. After it's been built.
No, I can't do that. You're on my everything advisor. You know that. I just want to say to the audience, we've often mentioned that Prasanna has this like this ridiculous level of random knowledge. Today, I'm talking to Prasanna, and he's like, so I think the flow rate of a garden hose is like 1 to 1.5 gallons an hour. And I was just like, why do you know that?
Also, I was significantly wrong.
Oh, were you?
So it depends on the size of a pipe, but they say it could be between 5 and 8.
Yeah. Okay. So in this case, you thought you knew something.
Yes.
Right.
But I did clarify and say I think that might be low, just given that traditional bathroom faucets are like 1 to 1.5 gallon per minute.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're not going to talk about that stuff at all. We're going to talk
What are
about
we?
deepfake attacks. And this is a real problem. You sent me a great article that started this whole thing.
From the Register?
Yeah, from the Register. And the title, we'll put the link in here. And the saying from Gartner, they're saying nearly half of businesses suffered deepfake phone calls against the staff. So do you want to just give an overview of what we're talking about here?
Yeah, sure. So with the prevalence of AI and all these models being amazing and being able to generate video and photos, another aspect is being able to generate audio. And so now these AI models are really good at taking someone's voice and being able to mimic it such that an attacker can make it sound like you are talking the same way as the person that they're trying to mimic
Right.
or imitate.
Right.
And the quality has gotten so good that it's pretty difficult to differentiate between the real person and the deep fake.
Especially if you don't know the real person, right?
Yeah.
So like if you don't know them personally, I think I would,
Yeah.
like with you, I think I would pretty readily notice a deep fake, right? Well, first off, I would ask the deep fake some random piece of information. I'd be
You know,
like,
that probably may not be good
you know,
because a deep fake probably has that
oh,
information.
that's true.
Yeah.
I'd be like the classic line in what's the ignition timing on a 4-barrel carburetor on a
My cousin
1968?
Vincent.
Yeah, my cousin Vinny. Um, it's a trick question. Um, um, the yeah,
So there is so deep fakes, right? We talked about people use it also as pranks, right? And kids use it to be like, "Hey, I'm imitating someone else," or you call in sick from school, and the school calls your parents and is like, "Where are you?" And you can imitate your parents and be like, "Hey, so and so's sick. He's not coming in today."
right, right,
Right? So there are sort of not so like critical reasons people use it, like for the fun aspects of things.
right.
But then there's also the malicious uses of this technology, which is kind of what this episode is about.
Yeah, and also there's audio deepfakes and there's video deepfakes, right? And it was interesting. Again, that same article said that 36% of people had video deepfakes, and that 5% had caused a serious problem.
Yeah.
So go
And
ahead.
and just the point about that, audio deepfakes are less costly today
Right,
versus video
right,
deepfakes. I think in one of the articles I read, I can't remember if it was the Register article, but like a video deepfake, a really convincing one, might cost millions of dollars.
mm,
Right. That number has probably significantly gone down with a lot of the new AI models that have been announced,
right,
but doing it real time is a little bit more difficult
right,
than doing sort of a pre-process, but doing audio is significantly easier than video.
right, right. And so it's probably less. That makes it less likely to be there, right? But we'll talk about one particular type of attack that uses video deepfakes, where I think that it addresses the issue that you talked about right there, right?
Yeah.
Um, and and why would they do this? Why would somebody, what are they attempting to do here?
So they are basically trying to trick the company employee, right? Specifically the employee to do something. It might be to gain access to the corporate network by doing password resets, which is what we see a lot of scattered spider currently doing for their attacks, where they're calling in pretending to be someone. It could also be, hey, I'm going to call in and be like, I'm the CEO. Please release this critical invoice and pay so and so.
Mm-hmm.
It could even be used for people buying real estate. Someone can call in pretending to be your agent and being like, hey, wire the money over to this other bank
Right,
account rather than the one that I
right.
told you. And now they just siphoned all your money and it's really hard to get it back.
I'd say that
So,
that's sort of two broad categories. So, I mean, the one giant category is basically get the employee to do something that they wouldn't have otherwise done, right? And that the two big categories would be one, grant somebody access to something, and two, grant them access to some money,
Yep.
Send some money over. And by the way, wire fraud is very real. Wire fraud is very real. And once it's done, it's kind of done, right?
Yep.
Once it's discovered, if the money's gone, right?
Yep. And there was a huge issue, and I think it's still a huge issue, where people would basically get so-called signing instructions or last-minute wiring instructions from the broker and be like, wire it to this account. They'd wire it, and then it turns out the broker had been compromised.
Right.
Someone had imitated them, sent out all these emails, and now had a bunch of money that people thought was like their down payment going to the person, and turned out it was going to a criminal actor.
Right. Not good.
Yeah.
So first off,
Focusing on businesses.
yeah, focusing on businesses. But first off, I think the number one goal of this call is to just, if you don't know how big of a deal this is a big deal. It's a big deal literally today. There was one statistic that suggested that they thought that 30% of of enterprise fraud will be deepfake based by next year. Okay. And also realize that they only need 30 seconds of clear audio to be able to clone somebody's voice, which is kind of
we're screwed.
Yeah, we're screwed. Yeah, we're screwed.
I guess one question is, these people they're cloning, right?
Yeah.
They're usually the people in power, right? Meaning the CFO, right? The CEO, trying to get the employees, say the person in accounting, to sign a check or to send money somewhere.
Right.
And so these people usually have like public spotlights. They're the ones who you find on LinkedIn with the social posts and the videos for the company, right? Trying to promote the company, or they're giving talks at conferences.
Right.
So it's not like, oh, they're just locked away and someone somehow goes and like records their audio, right? Or like downloads their phone messages or their phone calls, right? It is, this data is already out there. It's not like it's hard to find.
Right. Let's talk about a couple of the different types of attacks. The worst one, I think, and it's worse in terms of like the potential ramifications, but also in terms of it's so devious. And that is that they create a very short video of the person in power. So this is like a CEO, CFO, that type of person, someone with authority to authorize a wire transfer. And then they create a very short video that basically mimics the thing that they want them to do. But then the video, as part of this video, it drops, right?
Yeah.
So so what that does is that addresses the problem that you were talking about, is it addresses the cost of making that video fake. It also completely removes the need to do real-time video fake, which would be the thing that would be super, super expensive. So if they can get a video of the person and then do that, and then what they do is that they're like, they drop the call and then they immediately switch to an alternate communication method, such as the easiest would be text. It's like, hey, I was trying to call you and my internet dropped, and text now is the only thing. And because of, again, human nature, you thought you were just talking to the CEO, and now you think you're still talking to the CEO. And here's a question: how easy is it to clone a phone number?
Oh, super simple.
Super simple.
You can spoof a phone number and show, or it doesn't even have to be the CEO. As an example, say you were on a video call and you claim that, oh, my video's poor, you drop back off, you hide your video, you could still be doing the audio.
You could, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't even have to go to text messages or voice call or other things like that. You just leverage the same thing.
Yeah, so you could use the same channel, but just drop the video, right?
Yeah,
go ahead.
And I think that's what happened in the first time I heard about this attack was, I think a company, the CEO joined and said, send out pay this vendor, I think it was like $25 million or something. And it was, I think, on a video call that they were on where they got deep faked, and then they basically sent it to these fraudulent people.
Right. Yeah. And again, go back to, once that happens, you're kind of screwed, right?
Yep.
And it's not like with a credit card where you can do a chargeback.
Yeah. And the other thing to also mention here is it's not like they're just going and saying, "Oh, I'm just going to randomly target you." They might have already gained access into your systems.
Mhm.
They might have already wandered around looking at, okay, who's the important people, who's in accounting, what meetings are there. So they are already snooping, listening in on your conversations, looking at your emails. And so they know exactly where to attack, and who to impersonate.
Right. So that's the one. That's one type. That's where they're trying to get like to authorize like some sort of invoice, some sort of payment. The other is the basically trying to gain access to an account. So this is either reset a password or resetting MFA tokens.
Yeah.
Can you think of anything else that they would try there?
I think those are the main ones.
Yeah.
But even there, I do wonder how much is really around the voice aspects and the deep fake
Hmm.
versus just the social engineering. Because I think in those scenarios, social engineering becomes more critical, right? In terms of understanding all the things needed in order to be able to reset an account. It's not necessarily that the help desk person or the person on the other side knows your voice in particular.
Well, yeah. Again, you're not necessarily. That's why I was saying earlier in the call, it's not necessarily a voice that's known to the person, but they're
Yeah,
calling into a help desk. But what you are doing is you're using a deep fake uh, thing to
to
you're
generate.
trying to sound generally like somebody,
Yeah,
but again, it kind of relies on you not knowing that person really well because I
yeah.
think the nuances of how that person talks is they are going to be I think, relatively obvious to someone. The point there, again, is to reset something, to reset MFA so that then you could, do the MFA
Yeah.
with some other
The
channel.
yeah. The other thing to also think about is there are still companies that use voice as an authentication,
Yes.
right? And so now becomes a question, okay, if my voice is my password,
Passport, passport. If you're going to quote the line, my voice is my passport, verify me.
yeah. And so now that becomes an attack vector,
Yeah.
right? It's now someone can mimic you and unlock. The other person doesn't know what you are supposed to sound like, but you've unlocked the account because you've made a deep fake.
That quote, of course, is from Sneakers, one of my favorite movies ever. I need to go watch that again.
Hmm.
I do want to talk just a little bit about personal stuff and then jump into the company stuff, right? There are a couple things that you could do, and they're actually kind of similar. One is to create some sort of code word within the family, right? Some sort of shared secret that only you and the other person knows, and say, hey, if I ever actually do call you and I say I'm on the roadside and I need you to wire me $500 for a tow truck or whatever, I'm going to say this code word, right?
Yeah.
And you can also, if you don't have a shared code word, you can reference like in you and if this was happening right now, I would say, hey, that thing that we were talking about earlier today, and you can
Yeah.
reference something that only you and that person would know.
But yes, and I think that becomes the key is something that only you and that other person knows that hasn't been shared over a video,
Yeah,
over
yeah,
text,
exactly.
over some other communication
Exactly.
method that
It needs to
needs
be,
dropped off.
yeah, very much that. And then also, and we're going to get this to the company as well, is verify through an alternate channel, right?
Hmm.
Is something other than, um, call them back on the number that you know them on. Now, there are ways to get around that too, but in general, they're going to be faking the number. And when you call
Yeah,
the other person's actual number back, it's not going to be the scammer,
yeah,
right?
and it's interesting that we're talking about this episode today. So this morning I sent an article to my wife,
Hmm.
and for some reason the link was broken. It didn't show up properly in text, and it just showed up as an empty bubble. And she immediately calls me. She's like, "Did someone hack your phone?" Because normally I don't send things like that, and
Right.
it looked very weird. She was wanted to verify using a different channel to be like, "Hey, is that really you or not?"
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about to go to the companies now, right? And
Hmm.
because the first suggestion is the same as the suggestion that we just made, right? is to have multi-channel verification. So the real key here is they're calling you in over one channel, or they're contacting you via one channel. In this case, what we're talking about is audio deepfake. So they are calling you, and they've called you over this one channel, and then they want you to do the thing. So the question is, you need to contact them back over another channel. Now, I can think of like an attack against that. Do you know what that might be?
Well, it's basically they've compromised all your channels,
Well,
such
that wasn't
as
the,
email.
yeah, that wasn't the attack I was thinking about. Although I do know,
Yeah.
I am aware of a situation where there was a company that had that happen. Right? They had
Yeah.
compromised all of the things. That's not going to fix that. But in general, that's not the case. But what I was thinking was the usual case, or the usual hacker. What they're going to do is they're going to try to create a sense of urgency. Right? They're
Mm.
going to say, "Oh, I need to call you back on your phone number of record." "Oh, well, my phone's dead. Whatever. I can't. I'm calling in on my friend's phone. I'm trying to do I'm trying to do the thing." They come up. I'm sure that they're well trained on how to um, create that sense of urgency and that sense of exception of, here's why I'm
Yep.
doing it in this really weird way.
So, 100% agree. And I have a story around this. I actually have a story for once.
Okay.
So,
The way you say that,
so
it's like you think that's all I am is just a bunch of stories, but that's
no,
okay.
because you always have so many amazing stories from all your experience of being in the field. But I do have a story.
Yeah.
So, the other day I was looking to switch my internet plan,
Hmm.
and my contract was expiring. So I'd called in and placed an order online, and I get a call back like a couple hours later. I didn't recognize the number. The person leaves a message and is like, "Hey, this is Xfinity calling. We're calling about your plan. We had an issue. Can you please call us back? We can't do this right now. You have to call in." They leave a number.
Right.
And then they call like 3 or 4 other times, like, in the next couple days. And then, 3 days later, they call in, and I pick up the phone, and I talk to the person. They're like, "Hi, this is Xfinity. We had an issue with your order," and they had my name and
Hmm.
everything. I'm like, "Oh, that's great." And I was like, and then it dawned on me. I'm like, "I don't even know if this is Xfinity, because there's a lot of
Right.
garbage calls out there."
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, "Can you please give me your number so I can call back and verify?" And they've gotten really professional. They're like, "Oh, yeah, we totally understand. This happens to a lot of people. Here's our 1-800 number.
Uh-huh.
Call us back."
Uh-huh.
And then I looked at the number. I Google searched it. I couldn't find it in Xfinity's normal list. And Xfinity has a customer security assurance
Uh-huh.
department. So I called them and I gave them the number, and they're like, "Yeah, that's not an Xfinity number."
Yeah.
Right. But the person had the exact same script that Xfinity would say whenever they call in.
Yeah.
They had the exact same accent, everything else, calling from a local number,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? But it's
But you
out
did the
there,
right
right?
thing. You did the basically what we're talking about here, the multi-channel verification, calling back to I mean, in that case, it's technically the same channel, but you're calling back on a different phone number, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And that's what you're doing here. Is the whole point of the different ways that log in and secure those login. The whole point of that is to maintain that security. If they're then trying to circumvent that security, there could be a real reason. There could be a real person with a real scenario that's really down. If that, and so they can't use the normal methods. That's where you really need to slow things down. That person on the other end, they may be having the worst day of their lives, but you need to slow things down
Mhm.
and verify in every way that is possible. And that may indeed be very inconvenient for the person in question,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. The other thing too is, hopefully this is part of your processes,
Yes.
right? You have a process in place when something like this has to happen and someone's asking for this, right? There is, "Hey, I need this approval. We have these alternate mechanisms that we do to verify." So everyone's on the same page,
Right.
rather than it being like, "Oh, I don't know what to do," and everyone's frantic.
Right. Right. And so, speaking of multi-channel, the other thing is to ban personal messaging apps for official business. You're never going to ban, you know, let's say Signal forever. I don't know if you can ban Signal like technologically. You think you can, in like using a
So
firewall rules?
decentralized. so hard, I would
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. I don't think you can. Well, also, especially if it's going out over cell phone signals, right?
Yeah.
Um, but you can ban them for business use. And again, this goes back to a lot of this. You mentioned it just a minute ago. This is about policy and procedure.
Hmm.
There's a certain amount that you can do technologically, but in the end, what you need is regular training and policy and procedure that says we don't use personal messaging apps for business. And then when suddenly somebody is somehow contacting you via, like let's say they found out that you use Signal like on your phone or something, and so suddenly someone is contacting you via Signal on your phone. Well, that's a giant red flag right there. It's like, hey, this is not.
Yeah.
We don't use this for
The
official
normal way.
business, right? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so establishing these mechanisms is good. Now, you probably also need to have sort of a break glass scenario,
You do. Yeah.
right? I can imagine the case. Remember the Durret show and how everything went down?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right? Scenarios like that you couldn't have thought about, right? There needs to be, okay, this is a documented procedure when we have to go outside the normal scope.
Yes, and that person should be you should regularly train on that procedure, and that procedure. The more remote a person is, the more that procedure needs to be kind of ironclad, right? And you
Yeah.
need to have scenarios for those scenarios, right?
Yeah.
Right? Of like, okay, a derecho hit. If you get hurricanes all the time, you need to have a procedure that says here's what we do in this scenario, and then
Yeah.
whoever that is, that what, because you don't know if it's a deep fake or not.
Yeah.
Whoever it is, well, you need to follow our special procedure, and maybe that special procedure is we have this other phone number that you
Yep.
should have in your phone, or you should have in your, like you said, your break glass. You got your special thing that we gave you that you're supposed to store in your right front breast pocket. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up,
It's
but
not like embedded into your arm,
it's not.
but it,
You need to embed the little chip on your arm. Yeah, but yeah, you have that break glass procedure. I remember when when I ran IT for a small organization, the volunteer. It was a volunteer position, and the main person there really did not like the fact that they did not have root. And I was like,
yep.
I will not do this if you have root. Like I'm not here. Like I'm just not
Yeah.
interested in that. But what they did was we created a break glass procedure for that, which was we had it in a special envelope that was sealed, that was in the safe. And if I was ever incapacitated, they could break that. But if that was ever the case, then obviously I had to change the root password and everything. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going back to sort of the multi-channel verification, right? One thing is that you should also think about for some sensitive procedures or processes, right? Sort of having a callback protocol that says, okay, when this happens, this is the mechanism we're going to do. As an example, if someone's like, hey, I need to wire $100,000 to someone, it's like, okay, that is a special case,
Right.
right? Kind of like how we talked about break glass,
Right.
right? This is a special case. Here are the exact steps that are required. And here are the people you need to contact using this type of protocol to make sure that, yes, this is legitimate.
Right. And one of the big ones would be a big payment to a new vendor, right? That should set off all sorts of red flags, right?
Yeah.
You're sending $100,000 to a vendor that you've never done any business with before, and for some reason the CFO is calling you about this payment. That should be
Yeah.
like even if
Yeah.
it sounds so much like the CFO, that should set off
Yeah. Or
yeah.
or it should be like, hey, you should talk to procurement to figure out, okay, when did the vendor get added?
Yeah.
Right. And are they even aware of them?
Yeah, and I just want to speak to something here. You need to have a conversation with these people who are, you're in your management chain, and you need to have a conversation in advance. Say, hey, if you ever have a situation where it's triggering my, what do you call it? Red
Alarm
flag.
bells.
It's triggering off my spidey sense, whatever you want to call it. And I then put the kibosh on the thing you're asking for. you need to not like yell at me, right? We
Yeah.
need to agree in advance that if I put a stop to a large transaction or something like that, or I don't reset your MFA because you're trying to log in, and then you you cannot then just use your position to say just do it, right?
Yep.
Because that's exactly what a threat actor would do,
Process. Yeah, and you've established these processes ahead of
right,
time,
right,
and so you should be following it as a company.
right,
Yeah. And kind of along that line of sort of the processes, procedures, callback protocol, right? It's really important that employees get training,
yeah,
right? And periodic training because this landscape is changing. How people are attacking with deep fakes is constantly evolving. What are the new attacks is also changing on literally a day by day basis. And it's interesting because Curtis, I know in the past, like we both have done sort of security training.
hmm
I don't think I've ever run across deepfake training in those lessons,
no,
right?
no.
Yeah. And so
Well, I mean, if
maybe
you
it
think
is
about it,
something.
the last time, well, at least for me, the last time I was working for a company that was doing that kind of training, it was before deepfake was a thing. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But hopefully companies are now updating their trainings
yeah,
to include deepfakes. And maybe you should just periodically do a deepfake training or just have someone pretend to be a deepfake join a video conferencing call
yeah, yeah. I like
and
that.
just see how people react.
I wonder, like Know Before, I wonder
Yeah.
if they've updated their stuff to a clear. They've
Yeah.
got to at this point.
Yeah. And along with those employee trainings is also include this in your tabletop exercises,
hmm hmm
right? Just like we've talked about ransomware preparation, right? I think that you must include deepfake exercises to figure out, and especially with people from finance and accounting who maybe normally are not part of your tabletop
hmm
exercises, right? It's important that they now have this focused training to make sure they understand the scenarios and situations.
Right. Um, and there are, so I think policy and procedure is the big tool here,
Hmm.
right? Having said that, there is also starting to be detection tools, right? Now, this will be for the rest of our lives, this will be an arms race, right? Where we will have tools that detect AI. Right now, it's relatively easy if you know what to look for to detect an AI video or an AI audio, if you know what to
Am
look
I
for.
AI?
You, I don't think anybody could really do you as AI, um, but there are tools, right? There is software that can do real time AI detection, and they look at things like how the voice sounds. They look at the cadence of the voice. They look at if it's video, they're looking at eye movement, and and also like biometric watermarking. There's all sorts of things, especially for high risk people or high risk industries,
Hmm.
um, and uh, and then also there's enhanced things, enhanced security measures like liveness detection on multi-factor authentication, right?
Yeah.
Voice biometric systems, right? That can actually detect that the voice that they're listening to is synthetic, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And also along those lines, there are now regulations coming out trying to target sort of AI generated content. So if you look at things like Facebook videos, if they are generated using AI, I believe it now has to be tagged,
mhm,
right? And so there is sort of that awareness that AI is getting so good that it's hard to differentiate. And so it requires this additional tagging and information to be able to help users discern AI versus a real person.
so there is technology. So just search and keep yourself up to date on deep fake detection technology. It's going to be an arms race. This is going to be fun, right? So let's talk about some things not to rely on. Caller ID.
Yep.
Caller ID don't mean jack squat, right?
Yep.
And also, if you have voice recognition systems, if you don't have additional authentication on top of that voice recognition, same thing with video calls. And again, this urgent when it's like super urgent. This is why you've got to agree up front that even when it's urgent, you follow the policy and procedure,
Yeah.
right?
But I do wonder if people are sort of migrating away from urgent. As an example, if they start to understand, because like you said, it's an arms race.
Mm-hmm.
If bad actors start to realize, hey, people are not responding well to the urgency, and we don't necessarily need to be urgent in order to be able to do this sort of tax, maybe that starts to drop away. So I just want to caution people to not rely on urgent as the only flag. It is one of the signals, but it should not be the signal that
Agreed.
determines.
Yeah. It's not the only flag, but it's definitely a big flag, right?
Yeah.
And of course, this should go without saying, but things like, oh, I know this person's voice. And also they knew, just like you mentioned earlier, they knew details about me. Dude, they got all kinds of stuff, right? And how real the video looks. Because it's pretty amazing, especially if the video is very short, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the summary is that, the human element is it's both our strongest defense and our weakest link, right? We can't solve our way out of this with technology alone. It's got to be a combination of people, process, and technology.
Yep.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been fun, Prasanna.
Deepfake persona?
Who knows? All right. Well, thanks for listening, folks. And, be sure to subscribe wherever you see us. And that's a wrap. The Backup Wrap-Up is written, recorded, and produced by me, W. Curtis Preston. If you need backup or DR consulting, content generation, or expert witness work, check out backupcentral.com. You can also find links for my O'Reilly books on the same website. Remember, this is an independent podcast, and any opinions that you hear are those of the speaker and not necessarily an employer. Thanks for listening.